Canada's national ski jumping team is up in the air. Gone are names like Horst Buelow and Steve Collins. Now there are new jumpers on the block, like John Lockyer and Jeremy Begg. Today, they begin their flight towards Lillehammer in the 1994 Olympics at the Canadian Championships in Thunder Bay. Downhiller Kate Pace, biathletes Miriam Bedard, women of gold, back home after beating the world. We'll talk to both today about their wins and what lies ahead. And will the NBA come to Toronto?
I don't think it's a fast track, but I don't think it's a slow track. Something in the middle.
The coach, Jack Donahue, will talk NBA expansion with us on a Saturday afternoon full of hoops, hopes, and heights. Oh yeah, we're going to take you flying this afternoon. Hello and welcome to CTV Sports Control in Toronto, everyone. I'm Rod Black. And another great couple of hours of sports television for you, spotlighted by those daring young men on the ski jump. We'll take you to Big Thunder in Thunder Bay in a few moments. Later in the show, we'll talk to Canada's newest world champion, skier Kate Pace and biathlete Miriam Bedard. Also, we'll head to Salt Lake City, Utah, where the NBA All-Star Game goes tomorrow, and we'll get the latest word from Commissioner David Stern and the possibility that the NBA might come north of the border. We'll also get some insight from Canada's biggest basketball voice, former national team coach Jack Donahue will join us. So that's what's on the slate. Now let's bring you up to date on other happenings. First to the latest chapter in the Ben Johnson story. Ben today pulled out of the indoor championships in Winnipeg. He was supposed to run the 60 meters against Montreal's Bruni Surin later this afternoon, but Ben has a pulled hamstring and now might not qualify, might not be ready for next month's World Indoor Championships in Toronto. Meanwhile, Mark McCoy was not in Winnipeg. He was in Birmingham, England, where he finished third in an indoor meet. The Olympic champion finishing behind good friend Colin Jackson, who set a record today for the best 60-meter hurdles time this season. Behind him was American Tony Dees. At that same meet, American Michael Johnson ran the fourth fastest indoor 400 meters of all time, and Nouradine Morcelli won the mile, but fell just short of Eamon Coughlin's 10-year world mark of 3:49.78. Usual busy Saturday in hockey. News out of Minnesota is that Stars owner Norman Green says his prospects of moving his team to Dallas are outstanding. Green says the Stars will lose $15 million this season. He cannot afford to keep the team in Minneapolis any longer. The Stars are at home today in one of the games, 4 games on the NHL slate. We'll keep you on top of those games. Big game on the island today. Billy Smith will have his number retired. We'll have highlights in a short while. We'll be here throughout the day to keep you apprised of all goings on. But first, let's take off to Thunder Bay, where our commentators will now preview the Canadian Ski Jumping Championships.
Thanks, Rod, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 1993 Jeep Eagle Ski Nationals here from Big Thunder in Thunder Bay, Ontario. I'm Lance Brown. 1995 is a particularly big year for the people here in the Lakehead area. They are going to host the World Nordic Ski Championships. In essence, that's ski jumping and cross-country combined. Canada's ski jumping team hasn't really been the same since Horst Buelow, who joins me now on CTV's coverage of this event, was involved back with Steve Collins when Canada was quite strong in the early 1980s. Why the difference now as opposed to when you were at your top form?
Well, Lance, the program's gone through a big change. Myself, Ron Richards, Colin Capel retired, and it's up to the young fellows now to pull up their socks and try to bring in some results that have been lacking in our sport. But it's definitely a tough thing for the young fellows. The amount of training that they've gotten this year is improved, but we still have a long way to go.
Are we looking at a 4-year plan? Maybe somewhere down the road, would 95 be reasonable? It's going to be a pinch, I guess, for Lillehammer next year, isn't it?
It's going to be tough for Lillehammer next year. However, 95, I would say, is a reasonable goal and our main goal with the younger fellows. John Lockyer is definitely our biggest hopeful for Lillehammer, and hopefully he'll be able to put some good jumps together for us here today and make the Olympic criteria.
Lockyer is a 7-year Canadian team veteran. He is the only A-carded member of the team left due to retirements and other things after a poor performance last year by this team in 1992. So we'll see what Lockyer and the rest of the team can do. One other thing that we should mention before we get going on this, and that's the weather. It's been sunny at times today, a little bit overcast right now, and the wind is expected to pick up a bit later on in the day. What will that mean, Horst?
Well, if the wind picks up later on in the day, it'll make it very difficult for the 120-meter hill, and the young fellows might have a tough time with the winds, but the veterans should be able to handle it no problem.
All right, we're looking forward to what should be a great 1993 championship right here on CTV. Now let's go back to Toronto and Rod Black.
All right, thanks, Lance. Time for liftoff, folks. The fastest 100
And the first man at 90 meters down this gleaming sheet of white, preparing to propel himself into space for at least a short time, is a 17-year-old from Oshawa. This is Jeremy Blackburn. First year as a member of the national team, he began jumping at the age of 11, going down what is called the in-run and hits the takeoff point.
That was a pretty good jump by Jeremy there. He had a nice landing, but I think he lacked a little leg power on the end of that takeoff. As we can see, he's got that V-style going real well, and he's well over his skis, but he definitely is lacking some leg power, and he's one of our young Canadians, one of our great hopefuls for the years to come.
And we should note again that points are awarded for style in this competition. Here's another 17-year-old first-year national team member. This is Gregor Linsing from Banff. I had the opportunity not so long ago to spend some time in the Banff Lake Louise area, do some skiing myself. I didn't go off jumps anywhere near this large, but they're very high on this youngster as he moves down the in-run and hits the takeoff.
Gregor's using that V-style, and that's very crucial for these young boys to adapt to that V-style. Everybody in the world is using it now, and it's the only way to go, Lance. Let's take a look here in slow motion as we see Gregor sitting real well here. However, he's a little bit weak in the legs still, and that's something that's lacking with these young fellows, and hopefully in the years to come they'll develop more leg power.
And you had talked about how important it was to time that jump.
Timing's very crucial, very crucial. It's important not to be too late or too early. We got to hit it right on the button.
A good number of these competitors in both the 90 and the 120 are youngsters. Here's another one, a 17-year-old Jeremy Bake, the hometown favorite. Trains in Stamps, Austria, and he's got a great jump.
Jeremy just nailed that jump and had a great telemark landing. He's really improved. Going to school in Stamps, Austria, and getting some technical help from the Austrians has really helped. He's sitting here real well and hits the takeoff right on time. You can see his upper body is quite low, and he spreads those skis and he's just leaning right through them, and he's got a very, very good aerodynamic position here. And he's coming into the landing and puts in a nice telemark landing, and that's great to see, and the judges like to see that, and he'll be awarded a few extra style points.
Something that they say is very important is that once you hit the takeoff, make sure you get into that flight position as fast as you possibly can.
Exactly, and the V-style is allowing the jumper to get into that flight position much quicker.
And our fourth 17-year-old of four that we've shown you so far, this is Grant Harder, and he is from Camrose, Alberta. He's got a great coach.
Yeah, he sure does. Grant looks pretty good here. He seemed to hit it right on the end too, and he's flying through there. Oh, a little bit of a problem there on the landing. I think he either gave up a little early or was pushing a little too hard at the end. We'll see this. Grant's looking good here. He's got the V-style working well. He's stretching well over his skis, and as he comes into the landing here, oh, he had a few extra meters in that jump. He pulled his knees up and definitely could have had 2 or 3 more meters in that jump.
For those of you playing along with our version of the home game, it's Horst Bulau, the correct answer for who is the coach of Grant Harder. Grant began jumping at age 15 after a high school presentation in Camrose.
We will have events in the evening. This is a first for Nordic Sports anywhere in the world to have it under night lighting. And it's a real plus factor and should contribute not only to the sport, but the enhancement and the development of the athletes for Canada for its future.
Busy afternoon in the National Hockey League. 4 games, including one on the island. Remember that great name, Billy Smith? A lot of players remember Billy Smith and his stick as well. Billy Smith today honored by the New York Islanders as the Islanders trail the Pittsburgh Penguins for the moment by a score of 1-0 on the island. As I mentioned, Billy Smith, one of the great goalies of all time, particularly in the Islanders Stanley Cup drive for the 4 championships. Now we're going to go to the highlights of the Islanders and Penguins game as we see Billy Smith. There he is. Smith, part of the 4 Stanley Cups, had his jersey retired today. His number 31 raised to the rafters of Nassau Coliseum. Smith and his family, no doubt savoring the moment. His sweater up there with the Dennis Potvin and Mike Bossy. There's Glenn Healy. He's the new Billy Smith of today's era. Later, it's Pierre Turgeon with the goal. The Islanders have the lead. It's 1-0 on the Pittsburgh Penguins this afternoon. Some golf news to tell you about in Australia. Actually, the shot of the day, and I think we have it ready for you from Peter Sr., who delighted his home fans on the first day of the Australian Masters. Watch this shot, watch the ball, and watch Senior. On the green, and yes, in the hole. Peter Senior today, a hole-in-one. Also worth $100,000. Not bad prize money for that. Now let's go back to the Big Thunder and the Canadian Ski Jumping Championships for 1993 and rejoin Lance Brown and Urs Bulow.
An idea of just exactly how far up these jumpers are, and remember, this is only 90 meters, the 120 yet to come. 17-year-old Daniel Curtis next, and he is from Thunder Bay, also coached by Orst. His first year as a member of the National B team.
Danny, he's an exciting young jumper. He's had some good results earlier in the year in Lake Placid, and here he comes down the in-run and looks pretty good. He seemed to be a little bit slow with the legs there. There wasn't a whole lot of power there with those young legs of his, and it's something that's lacking with these young fellas, and we've got to be very patient with them. I'm going to stress that here today because we've got to be patient with these young guys. He's sitting real good. Seemed to hit the takeoff pretty much on time, and he's got that good V-style working, but he's hanging a little bit behind here, and that's something that he's got to work on. And once the leg power builds up in these younger fellas, they're going to really accelerate over the skis more. He was a little weak on the landing.
How do you build the leg power?
Well, lots of training, Lance. Strength training, plyometric training, which is bounding, jumping over hurdles and things like that. Very similar to track athletes.
21-year-old Jeff Hayes from Thunder Bay. Something you may see is occasionally, and it's happening here again, the competitors go a little bit sideways off the takeoff. Orst, why is that?
Well, what's happening is it's just the natural air pressure underneath the skis, and the skis are so wide from the jumping skis, as we can see, and it creates a little twist sometimes. Or it also may be a little bit out of balance with one leg pushing a little stronger than the other. That tends to cause some guys to turn a little more in the air than others.
So you're 16 years old and you're from Calgary, Alberta, and you're looking for something to spice up your life if in fact you figure you need it, which Adam Franklowitz may or may not have. So he decides, well, I think I'll take up ski jumping. So here he is, Adam Franklowitz of Calgary, just finishing his first year, and Orst, he has done amazingly well.
Well, to see this guy, if you would have saw this guy this summer jumping on the plastic, I mean, it was frightening. I always had to turn my head, but Adam's just improved so much here, and he's really worked well with the V-style, and look at that. I mean, nice telemark landing. It was well over his skis. I'm very impressed with this young fella because, you know, he's only been jumping hardly 1 year, and it's just amazing to see that the guy can, you know, throw his skis out, get into that V position, and lean well over the skis. It's a great feat of what he's actually done, and his coach in Alberta should be very proud of him.
Roger Conrad, also from Calgary, is 15 years old.
Roger's one of those young guys, too, that definitely needs some strength training to build up his legs so he can propel himself over the skis and get the longer distances. We can see here that he is holding back just a bit, and what I mean there is he's not extending his body far enough over his skis, and he's just hanging there. So that makes it difficult for him to get the longer distances, and it's also his leg strength.
And you may have noticed in that replay, and you'll see it often, the green flashing light on the left-hand side indicating that the skier is coming down the jump. Many of the members of this team very young. Rennie Watt is from Ottawa, skiing for the Thunder Bay Club.
Rennie's also, you can see he's very, very weak in the legs. I'm going to be using that a lot, I think, with these younger boys. We have to be patient with them. Another thing I'm going to be saying, it's very crucial that they work on strength training. And you can see he hit the takeoff pretty much on time, and he has the good V-style going. But with the legs being so weak, it's tough for him to really get the good distances that we will be seeing.
Came out of it a little bit early, it looked like. Came
yes,
out of the landing
and he
a
is
little bit early.
And he is hanging back there just a bit.
The 260-centimeter skis of the defending champion in the 120 meters. He was 4th in the 90 last year, and his name is John Lockyer. He's a 7-year Canadian team veteran. He's been jumping since the age of 8. He is now 21 and is from St. John's, Newfoundland.
John's looking pretty good coming down here right now. He's really worked hard this summer. He's developed a lot of good leg strength, and you can see that Johnny really nailed this one. His legs are much quicker than the younger boys, and you can definitely see that from the push on the end of the takeoff.
19 meters.
John looks very, very good in his in-run position right now. And as you can see, he hit the takeoff right on the end. His upper body is staying low, and he's pushing himself well over those skis. The V-style could be a little further apart. I think his coach would like to see his skis a little more apart, which would give him a better aerodynamic position. Not a bad landing, but he happened to catch an edge there.
And not a bad jump, 90 meters even for John Lockyer, and that is good enough at the end of round 1 of 2 to put him in front by 2 meters over Jeremy Baig, who had an outstanding first round, and Grant Harder just 1/2 meter behind Baig in 3rd.
More to come today from Big Thunder in Thunder Bay, but now it's time to go to another major championship that is going on out west in Calgary at Olympic Park. Ron Roosh is standing by to tell us more about the World Luge Championships going on, which will be shown in CTV in a couple of weeks. Ron?
Rod, here's another one for your Canadian file. Harrington Telford of Calgary, by virtue of his 14th place finish in last night's men's singles competition, is qualified for the Olympic Games. Lillehammer will be his 3rd trip to Olympic luge competition. As you can see, it's snowing here at Canada Olympic Park. It's been snowing for 2 days now. Last night in the competition, the snow changed neither the speed nor the intensity of the World Championship. Telford set a Canadian track record at 46.592 seconds in his first run. He followed with a strong second run to maintain his 14th position. Best showing ever in World Championship or Olympic competition. Olympic gold medalist Georg Hackl of Germany became the first luger to break the 46-second barrier at Canada Olympic Park track. He held the lead after the first run. But on the second run, Warren Sukow of Marquette, Michigan overhauled him and became the first American to win a World Championship gold medal. The margin of victory in this intense. As for Canada, an awful lot of work remains to be done. After the personal best performance by Telford, the next best Canadian was 26th, Oliver Michalski.
All right, thanks, Ron. The World Luge Championships as we get ready for Lillehammer a year away. You'll see the World Luge Championship. We'll rejoin Lance Brown and Horst Buelau in just a moment.
You are observing people around the world.
News from a bank. Imagine that.
So we will have a crosswalk, which is approximately maybe 60 meters long. When you get off the top end of the chairlift, you'll be able to walk to the #1 start on, or the furthest start away on the 120-meter hill. This in turn will allow anywhere from 25 to 30 skiers to be will allow anywhere from 25 to 30 skiers to be there at all times, ready to go when they're called.
Well, besides being a relatively average sportscaster, I'm also decent at the weather, and it of Banff.
Ontario Division.
Out of Winnipeg and now training in Thunder Bay, living here as well. This is the face of Neil Mines behind the gate in the 120.
Neil is definitely inexperienced on this big hill here. I saw him earlier in the week make one of his first jumps actually on this 120-meter hill, but this wasn't a bad jump here at all for this fella. Oh, he hit the takeoff right on the end, and he's showing some aggressiveness, pushing himself over those skis, getting the nice V-style going. However, he's got to work on that telemark landing.
But a terrific performance for a first jump for Neil Mines. 98.0, and for the moment, that puts him in 4th place. Future goals include Junior Worlds and perhaps the Olympics in not such a long time for Grant Harder, the 17-year-old from Camrose, who leaps from the gate in the 120 for his first of 2 jumps.
Grant had some great jumps on the 90-meter hill. Let's see if he can carry it over here to the 120, and no, he did not hit that one at all. He doesn't look very happy at all. He was late on the takeoff, and he's just hanging back there. He's not accelerating his body over the skis enough.
89.5 meters.
He's not very happy with that one, Lance.
And we are awaiting the official. There it is, 89.5 meters for Grant Harder, who will give himself some time to think about it. He can do a lot better than 89.5. He knows it, and he has a chance to prove it with one more jump in the 120. Rennie Watt is the next of the competitors to reach speeds approaching 100 kilometers an hour as they sail down the in-run towards the takeoff point. Watt's a 16-year-old from Ottawa who now skis out of Thunder Bay.
Well, Rennie once again is demonstrating that he's not using too much legs there, and he's definitely lacking the power in his legs. He doesn't look too happy with that jump. However, they haven't had a lot of jumps on the 120-meter hill. Rennie seems to be sitting not too bad in the in-run position. He's had his knees nice and forward. Upper body is trying to stay low. Just too weak in those legs to get him those big distances that we'd like to see on the 120-meter hill.
76.5 for Rennie Watt and a speed of 96.3 kilometers an hour as he hit the takeoff point. So there's an example of the speeds we were speaking of. As David Hiscox gets set. Hiscox from Thunder Bay. The speeds don't vary all that much, anywhere between, on my list here, 93 and about 97. And yet, of course, the distances vary a great deal.
Well, actually, Lance, those speeds do make a big difference. If you're more than a half a kilometer out, it can make up to 5 meters on a jump. So speed is very crucial. You want to be very consistent with the fastest competitor. Weight has something to do with that also, and waxing. And as we can see, David had a little difficulty on that jump. It's nice to see him jumping, though. He had mono earlier in the year, and I'm sure he's still feeling a little weak.
79.5 for David Hiscox.
All right, time for a quick timeout to bring you up to date on what's happening in the National Hockey League today.
He comes into this competition one of the most physically fit of the jumpers. Horst, you've spoken at great length about how much leg strength is needed. Let's watch Jeremy Baig as he moves down the in run and hits the takeoff.
Oh, he hit it right on the end here, and he's pushing way down the hill. He's stretching well over his skis. Oh, what a great jump for Jeremy. And I know he hasn't had too many jumps on this 120-meter hill. What a great jump for this fella.
Well over 115, 119 even. 119, Jeremy Baig leaps into the lead with this.
He hit the takeoff right on the end, pushed his upper body right through his skis. Look at, he's almost going through the skis here, stretching well over his skis. Jeremy is really improved. The training he's getting in Austria is unbelievable, and he's showing it here today. Nice form, good V-style, and coming into a great landing.
What a tremendous first jump for Jeremy Baig. And that sets the table for the next man up.
6.5 meters.
John Lockyer, 21 years of age, the defending champion in this event in Canada. And Lockyer, I don't know if he's aware yet or not of Baig's 119. Here is his first performance. John Lockyer trying to hold form. He's got a great one. Beautiful jump for John Lockyer.
John nailed the end of the takeoff here. You can really see the lift he's getting here on the end of the jump. He's just climbing here, pushing himself well over his skis. He's got the V-style going better here. He's in a nice aerodynamic position, and he's getting great lift. There's some wind out there going up the hill, and it's really picking the jumper up. And Johnny's just pushing himself way down the hill here and puts in a great telemark landing for this jump.
124 meters even, 5 meters better than an outstanding jump by Jeremy Baig. So with one jump remaining for each competitor, John Lockyer is comfortably in first place.
Immediately, please make your way back.
Shooting and skiing, racing to the finish, all part of being part of the biathlon. Mention that word in Canada these days, you conjure up a picture of Miriam Bedard, most recently a world champion in Bulgaria. From Quebec City, we welcome a lady who must really love the month of February. Last year, an Olympic medal. This year, a world championship. Miriam, this has to be your favorite time of year.
I don't know. I think it's mostly my training program is made to perform at this moment. Exactly like all the athletes want to perform at the World and at the Olympics. They don't want to perform before or later. And that's the goal. It's the achievement of a good season.
What does the achievement of this World Championship mean to you?
I think it gives to me the satisfaction, like all the training you do during the summer, you train hard, you train for the Worlds, and when you get what you deserve or what you expect, or sometimes you get better than what you expect, it's good for you because it's like achieving your goal, and it's very positive for mentally for a person.
I've read somewhere that you've always been gazing ahead, despite what you've done this year, to next year's Winter Olympics, even last year in Albertville, apparently. It appears, for all intents and purposes, you're skiing in the right direction.
I think, yes, it's going very, very well for me. Last year at the Olympics, I was expecting a good year, but not a medal. The medal came, I was very happy, but for me, the main goal in my life was Lillehammer Olympics. And this year, with those good results, it gives me a lot of confidence with my training program, because now I know my training program is working well, and it's going to be very good for me coming to the Olympics knowing that my chances are very good.
Before Albertville, not many people knew who Miriam Bedard was, never mind your sport. Now they not only know you, they know biathlon. It must make you feel very good.
I'm very proud because, yes, it's a big achievement for my sport. Now some young kids are very motivated to keep going in the sport. They are motivated because they know they have a chance to go to the Olympics one of these days. So it's very good because now people know my sport. The kids are motivated, and okay, yes, they know me, but that's not the main goal. It's that my sport is going somewhere in life.
Hey, they're knowing you very well. Sometimes they say success can change people. Has success changed Miriam Bedard at all?
I changed a little bit, yes. I think I got a little bit more mature because I had to organize myself so much last year. I had to learn many things about all around the sport, what is going on around the sport. And I think, yes, I've changed a little bit. Maybe I have to change fast. Sometimes it's not maybe as good, but it's okay. I can live with that.
In this day of budget tightening and lean financing in sports, athletes having problems making money to help themselves and their sport along, you've been fortunate to be linked up with a sponsor who has not only helped you, but helped your sport of biathlon. It really must help you to know that you have someone behind you helping you.
Yes, it does help. What I have to say maybe to the athlete is last year, I wasn't waiting for phone call for sponsorship. Many athletes are waiting for phone call. You should go after the sponsor because, like for me, Metropolitan Life, they phoned me, but like still I had to go for them. I have to meet them, and it's a lot of work. I worked 3 months last year to find a sponsor, and I got the video lately too. But it's personal. You have to put some time personally. You should not wait for sponsor, and I think the athletes should know that.
Not only has sponsorship helped you, but when you do what you've done, I suppose it makes the sponsors very happy as well.
Oh yes, they were not expecting that actually. This year I said, I'm going to verify my training program, but I never told them that there was chance for medal. They are very happy.
What's next?
What's next? I have a workup in Lillehammer, the pre-Olympics. It's very important for me to check out the course there, to look all the technical points. And after that, I have Sweden, Östersund, another World Cup, and Kontiolahti in Finland, the World Cup final. Who's going to decide who's the World Cup winner there?
Well, Miriam, thank you. Merci beaucoup, and good luck in Lillehammer.
Thank you.
Last year, a bronze medal. This February, she got a world championship. Maybe next February, who knows? Maybe gold in Lillehammer. In a moment, we'll talk NBA expansion with the coach, Jack Donahue. We'll be talking to him and more about NBA expansion possibilities.
Sapinski, a 16-year-old from Ottawa.
Well, the wind is really starting to pick up here, and the snow seems to be coming down a little heavier, and Jonathan definitely had a little difficulty here in this jump, and I'm just wondering if this wind is affecting them more. He seemed to hit the takeoff okay, but he's hanging there just a bit, and that could be the wind causing some problems for him. And he tries to put in that telemark landing, but Jonathan is not too happy with that jump.
94 meters, the first jump, 79.5. Almost 15 full meters weaker, Orst, in that second performance. So no doubt the wind and perhaps increased snow may have something to do with it. Jeremy Blackburn's first performance, 87.0. So he'll need a strong second performance here in the 120 in order to move up in the standings. He is well back. Gets the takeoff nicely. Horse looks good.
Yeah. Much better jump for Jeremy there. He's definitely had some very good jumps on this hill earlier in the week. However, a little bit behind today. He's not using those legs quite as well. I'm wondering if he's a little tired today or what it may be. He had some problems on the smaller hill too, and I think he just may be a little worn down and needs a bit of a break.
Still, that was considerably better than his first jump, 100.5 meters, the second jump for Jeremy Blackburn of Ontario.
Ahead to next February's Winter Olympics. Let's begin our Canadian file this week by talking about Jean-Luc Brassard. The master of the moguls in Canada has virtually locked up the coveted overall World Cup mogul title. Moguls are part of the medals competition. They will be in Lillehammer. Jean-Luc Brassard of Grandville, Quebec. He beat the field and the weather. He won his fourth World Cup freestyle ski mogul competition today in Meiringen, Switzerland, and his time down the run a mark of 26.29 points. So congratulations to Jean-Luc Brassard. In cross-country skiing, world Nordic Championships, 30-kilometer ski championships. Danny Bouchard of Le Touque, Quebec was top Canadian today. At Fallon, Sweden, he finished 34th. Now let's go back to Big Thunder and the finale today to the Canadian Ski Jumping Championships. Rejoin Lance and Horst.
Gregor Litzig of Banff's first performance, 86.5. He sets for his second. The judges will combine these points that they award for each of the jumps with style points, and they will come together in an aggregate that at the moment would need a strong second jump from Litzig in order to move into a medal position. Here it is.
Well, we can really see here that the wind is causing some problems because Gregor jumped straight up here. I think he was pretty nervous up there. Definitely. He's not using too much leg power at all. He's hanging back. He's not trying to drive himself more over those skis. And I think he's a little bit nervous because of that wind really picking up. It's tough for these young fellows who haven't had too many jumps on this big hill.
86.5, the first performance, 75 even. The second for Litzig. Neil Mines of Winnipeg prepares for his second jump. Mines first, 98.0, but all of the rest of the competitors, with the exception of one who simply had an awful first jump, were weaker on their second. And this doesn't look to be any different, Horst. Again, trouble with that wind.
Yes, definitely. I believe that the jumpers are sitting up there. They feel the wind blowing around up in the starting gate, and they're going, oh my God, it's pretty windy out here. What should I do? And the thing is, they should just try to make the same jump. And to convince yourself to do all the same things technically on the end of the takeoff when it's windy like that is very, very difficult. And especially for these young boys, it's something that they have to learn and gain experience as they get older.
98.0, the first, 82.5. The second jump for Neil Mines of Ontario, 112.2 is his total, and that moves him currently into third place. But we still have almost half the field to go. This is Daniel Cardis of Thunder Bay.
Danny's just sitting back there in the interim position. He's got that wind in the back of his mind also. However, we should be very proud of these young fellows because they haven't had too many jumps on the 120-meter hill this year. And it's tough to be in your national championships and have the wind really blowing and howling like this in the snow and all the conditions. We should be proud of what they're doing right now, and it's a great learning experience for them.
Well, a better performance on this second jump than the first for Cardis, 75.5 in the first, 84.5 in the subsequent jump, 73.3 his points total, and at the moment that moves him into 10th place. Grant Harder of Camrose next off what amounts to a bench at the top of the 120-meter jump. His first, 89.5. He's looking for something considerably better. He is certainly capable of better than that.
Yeah, Grant had some great results on
a crosswalk, which is approximately maybe 60 meters long. When you get off the top end of the chairlift, you'll be able to walk to the #1 start on, or the furthest start away on the 120-meter hill. This in turn will allow anywhere from 25 to 30 skiers to be there at all times, ready to go when they're called.
Well, besides being a relatively average sportscaster, I'm also decent at the weather, and it's changed a little bit. We've got a bit more snow now, and the wind's picked up as Jeremy Blackburn hits takeoff number 2.
Jeremy had a little difficulty there, too, on the end of that takeoff. Not very much leg power into his jumps at all today, and that is definitely lacking for Jeremy. With the snow coming on, Lance, I don't see a big problem right now, but for the 120, it could create more problems, and the wind seems to be picking up too. You can see Jeremy is leaning fairly well over the skis. However, he is lacking that leg power today, and it's something that he really missed for his jumps.
74 meters even in that second, 79.5 in the first, A total with the style points of 167.1 for Blackburn. For the moment, that's good enough for first place. Whether it will stand, we'll know in short order. Gregor Linsing of Banff back at the top of Big Thunder, 90 meters.
Well, Gregor just gave himself a good push off that bar. He's sitting in a nice position, pushing well over those skis, trying to get a little extra distance. Bit of a squat landing there. He didn't really get that telemark that we'd like to see. He doesn't look overly happy about this jump. Well, he is sitting in a nice position. His knees are forward. He does use a little more leg kick on this jump. However, he is still hanging back. His upper body could be pushing better over those skis, and he kind of comes into that squat landing, and we don't like to see that. We like to see a telemark landing with one leg in front of the other.
77 meters in the first and 77 meters exactly again in the second for Gregor Linsing. With the style points, he's got a combined total of 165.4, which at the moment will put him in second place. The pride of Thunder Bay, Jeremy Beggs' first performance here at Big Thunder today was 88 meters. He hits the takeoff for his second attempt. Good takeoff and a great landing. Well, not a terrific landing, but the distance was good. That should be better than 90 meters.
What a great day for Jeremy. He really nails the takeoff right on the button, extends his body well over his skis, and he's just got that V-style going very, very good. It's got him spread way out there. A little bit of a squat landing there. He tried to slide in that telemark, but it's too bad he couldn't finish it up with a nice clean telemark. What a surprise Jeremy Begg's been.
91 meters for Jeremy Begg, and that puts him into the lead overall, 225.9 points. Second attempt, and the native of Camrose, Alberta, has a long look down. He has been waved on. He can take his time. He's got 15 seconds, and he is away.
Well, let's see what Grant can do here. A little pressure for him. Oh, he hit the takeoff right on the end and is going, oh, great jump. Went way down the hill. That was very close to the same distance as Jeremy Begg. He does hit the takeoff right on. Spreads those skis nice and wide in a good aerodynamic position. Yet again, he's just pulling his knees up. I think he's given a few meters away there. I could see Grant going 1 or 2 more meters further. He should be happy with those jumps, though, today.
Well, his first jump was 87.5, and this one has been logged at 88 meters even. So that is good enough to move Grant Harder at the moment into second place overall, 212.3 points.
Daniel Cardash.
Daniel Cardis of Thunder Bay. And Coach Bula will be watching him very closely.
Oh, Danny was a little bit slow with the legs there. He just did not get much leg power into that jump at all. You can see he's not very happy with that jump. Danny's sitting in a nice in-run position as we can see him coming down the in-run, but he's just a little bit slow with the legs. He's got to be quicker. He's got to push stronger with the legs, and that's a lack of power and training right now. As he gets older, he will develop that leg strength and quickness, and it's something that all the younger boys are lacking.
75 meters even for Cardis, a little weaker on that second than the first, which was 76.5, a total of 160.4, as Jeff Hayes slides into the gate and prepares for attempt number 2.
Jeff is one of those guys that we might call a weekend warrior. He's out there jumping more or less on the weekends. He does enjoy jumping, and Jeff's sitting pretty good in his in-run position here. But as we can see, just as a weekend jumper, he doesn't have much leg power and definitely needs some work on that V-style.
I thought I noticed as he came down here that he lost a little bit of form before he hit the takeoff as well.
Yes, he's definitely going a little too high with the upper body, meaning that his upper body is going too straight up in the air. He should be pushing more over his skis, and therefore there's not much distance.
56.5 the distance for Hayes there, 60.5 his first, his total overall 84.2 meters, so he is well back.
And we will head back to Thunder Bay and rejoin Lance and Horst in just a moment with more Canadian ski jumping this afternoon. Also to tell you about the 4 games going on in the National Hockey League. Los Angeles Kings really struggling of late. They won big the other night. Wayne Gretzky getting a championships. And in a moment, the Jeep Eagle Ski Nationals continue from Big Thunder and Thunder Bay. More ski jumping after this.
Young this Canadian team is. Here is another example of that. Adam Franklowitz, 16 years old, number 16 from Calgary. This is his second jump, his first performance, 76.5.
Not a bad jump again for Adam. He's pushing those skis out nice and wide, getting that V style. And he needs a little work on that telemark landing. However, he's got a nice in-run position here. His shoulders are low to the knees. His knees are forward. Good position. Hit the takeoff pretty much on time there. He's pushing those skis nice and wide in the flight, trying to get over the skis, trying to push his upper body more over the skis. Needs some work on that landing, but we can't expect more from a fellow that's just been jumping about 11 months.
Well, he expected more. 71 meters that last, a total of 150 even for Franklowitz. 15-year-old Roger Conrad gets ready. Now, just a moment ago, we had a look at what looked like a string out of the left side of his mitt.
Yeah, Roger's got a string in his left hand there, and it's to make him aware of his arm position in the in-run position. He actually grabs it with the other arm in the in-run, and he has a feeling for where his arms are in the in-run. And this helps him get a good in-run position.
So what you're telling me then is that at that point before the takeoff, he's holding a string.
That's right. Just to let him know where his arms are in the in-run. He was dropping his arms a lot before, and hanging on to that string gives him a feeling of keeping his arms up a little bit higher in his in-run position.
Well, it may not have done that well in the second. It was 70 meters for Conrad in his second attempt, 71.5 in the first. Still a good performance at 134.4 overall. 16-year-old Rene Watt of Ottawa had a 70.5 in his first jump. He checks the bindings, gets himself mentally prepared, and he is off on attempt number 2.
Rene's got a nice in-run position. His upper body is low to the knees. He just seems to slide off the end of the takeoff there, Lance. It doesn't get much legs into it. He definitely needs to work on strength training this summer, speed training, explosive power, much what the track athletes do for training. He's just sliding up the end. However, he is working technically not too bad, keeping the upper body low and forming a nice V in the flight for his flight position. But strength is definitely one thing he's lacking.
69 even in that second attempt for Rene Watt, and 130.7 overall, and that will move him into 7th position. Well, before this began, it figured that John Lockyer would have things his own way. He held the best position after the first round, but Jeremy Baig has come through with the best jump overall, and now Lockyer has to come through with a strong performance here in order to catch Baig, and he's got another good jump. How's the landing? Not bad at all. Not bad for John Lockyer.
John nailed the end of the takeoff on this jump. He's got a good in-run position. Upper body is nice and low. Knees are forward and hits the takeoff right on the end. Pushes himself well over those skis. He's got a little bit better V going this time, but he's pushing himself well down that hill and a good telemark landing. I think John was a little nervous on that jump, though. Didn't expect Jeremy Baig to be up there with them.
And there they are together, Baig on the left and Lockyer on the right, and it is Lockyer, the winner of the 90 meters, with a second jump of 90.5, 232.3 overall, and that is good enough to defeat Baig's 225.9. You may have noticed during the running of the 90 meters that they set boughs from trees down along the course and down the in-run and towards the takeoff point so that these competitors have a good look before they leap. The 120 is next. The forecast calls for stronger winds, and they've picked up a bit now, and also a little bit more snow. That combined with the longer distance should make the next runs just that much more difficult.
The 120-meter to come, but in a moment we'll talk to Kate Pace, the new hero in Canada, the world downhill champion, as she returns home to North Bay, Ontario. Kate Pace and more on CTV Sports Presents after this. Downhilling to the top of the world, the new Queen of the Hill of Canada, Kate Pace, is joining us today from our studios in North Bay, Ontario. Kate, it's been quite a week for you, hasn't it?
Well, it's been a wonderful feeling ever since I won the race on the 11th, and it's been busy, but it's been very wonderful. A lot of support from people here in North Bay. Yesterday I had a wonderful reception with a homecoming and a big parade.
It probably hasn't even dawned on you yet. You mentioned the celebration, the reception, the parade. I suppose a big word, too, is emotion. Going back home, seeing all your friends and your family and your relatives?
Well, my two coaches, very first coaches that coached me here in North Bay were there, and many people that have helped me along the way, and my family, and it was just a wonderful feeling to share with the whole city the events that have taken place for me over the past week.
It's important, I suppose, for you to share this, like you mentioned. How important is it to going back home again for you?
I think it is important for me. I remember when I was a little kid looking up to people like Steve Podborski and really wondering what it was like to be someone in his position. I think it's important for me to come back and share my feelings and share the lessons that I've learned, share those things with the younger people around the city.
Can you share your memories of that now infamous race in Morioka with us, the now famous one-handed start from Kate Pace and then winning the World Championship? Have you been replaying the race in your mind?
I haven't really thought about the fact that how great it was that I won with one arm, and I think I just was ready to win a race for such a long time. I thought about winning it, and then when I look back, I think, how did I actually do that, getting out of the start with one hand? But having the support of my coaches and the help from them throughout the whole week prior to the race, I think that helped me a lot and gave me the confidence I needed going into the race.
Kind of ironic how it's been almost a year to the day since Karen Lee Gardner won the Olympic gold medal in the downhill. You win the World Championships. We're heading to Lillehammer. That's a year away, and I suppose this is a very special time for you and the Canadian women's downhill team.
When I was receiving my medal in Morioka in Japan, when I bowed my head to have the medal put around my neck, the man shook my hand and said, "You're joining a great history of Canadian women downhill skiers," and that was a great feeling for me.
What's happening now, Kate?
I'm leaving for Switzerland on Sunday, and I have 5 races left in the World Cup schedule.
How's the hand?
It's feeling pretty good. I had an x-ray done today, and I think I have another 3 weeks left in this cast.
Well, enjoy your celebration. Have a good, safe trip, and who knows, there might be more gold in the hills for you. Thanks.
Thanks, Rod.
Kate Pace, broken wrist and all, and she wins the World Championship last year. In a moment, we'll go back to the Big Thunder. More hang time, more air time on CTV.
It was all but decimated in the last year as a result of what many considered a disappointing 1992 season. All but one member left. Many of them retired, many of them simply quit. The only one left, the only A member left, is John Lockyer, who is having an outstanding performance here so far at Big Thunder. You have to hark back to the early 1980s when Horst Buelau, Steve Collins, Ron Richards were very strong, and many Canadians were considered among the best in the world.
Everybody was watching them. Horst was a big champion at that time. They were a big sensation in Europe, and they still know them there. They are well known in Europe still these days.
I just remember that ski jumping was the way to go back then. Horst Buelau was respected, especially here in Thunder Bay, and there was a lot of children, in my school and whatnot that were attached to the television, finding out how the national team was doing, because that was something to be excited about, just like Toronto winning the World Series.
Steve was 14, Ron was 15, and I had just turned 16. So we're all really young, and we're ambitious, eager, and we didn't know a whole lot, but we just kind of did what the coach told us to do.
And what Coach Bill Bakke told them to do was win. And the group of young unknowns soared distances Canadians had never before reached. The early 1980s was an era in Canadian winter sports remembered most for the crazy Canucks. The downhillers were the talk of the nation and the toast of the world. But there was another group of Canadian skiers who brought pride to their country. The names Steve Collins, Ron Richards, and Horst Bulau were respected and revered in ski jumping circles. This group of young flyers shocked the world, and their success was a byproduct of togetherness.
And Bill led us through those early 80s, and we had great results. We were just committed to doing what we were doing, and did what we were more or less told, and didn't worry about fear or fear for competition. I guess we weren't supposed to go out there and win like that, because you got to think, in Canada, ski jumping it's such a small group of people. It's not like alpine skiing, where there are thousands of alpine skiers.
We were working as a team, and that's what brought our team together. I think for me, at one point, when Horst won the Junior Worlds in '79, and to be a part of what he experienced as a team member, it was my turn to ski just as well as he did. The drive was always there, and if I wasn't doing well, then sure enough, Steve would do fairly well, and so would Ron. We always managed to get good results in those early 80s. I don't know, we hit it right at the right time, and we came together. It was like a gift for the three of us to have each other when we started, because that's where the competitiveness started between us, not everybody else. It was just us, and that's the best thing that ever could have happened, because we had each other to compete against.
Despite having World Cup winners, the sport of ski jumping never completely grabbed the imagination of Canadians. And as the heroes of the early 80s moved out, the torch was passed on to a system meager in numbers and behind in innovations. The momentum of the glory years ground to an abrupt halt.
I think we missed the boat on the promotion of the sport in the glory years, in the good years where I was winning, Steve was doing well, and Ron was doing well in those early 80s. We didn't have the right people working as far as promoting the sport and developing the sport. Because that's the key to any sport. When you're successful, when you have successful athletes, that's where you got to really promote and help bring life to the sport.
1993 offers the first rays of hope for ski jumping in Canada. The old administration has been moved out, and a new, young, and enthusiastic group has moved in. Perhaps the glorious years, the memories of Bulau, Collins, and Richards flying through the air will inspire a new wave of Canadian jumpers to reach for the sky.
Do the Europeans still remember the days of Horst and Steve and the others, and they know that there still is some potential here in Canada, and that we will turn out good jumpers again.
He is behind John Lockyer, who is doing everything I think that we expected so far. Horst, what do you look forward to in the 120 as we speak? That wind comes up and may play more of a role than it did in the 90.
Well, definitely. The wind is picking up now, and it's going to be tough for the young jumpers. The veterans such as John Lockyer and even Jeremy Begg or Jeremy Blackburn, they should be able to handle this wind, but the young fellows will have a tough time with it.
I know that they're going to try and rush them down the hill in behind us and get it out of the way before the winds pick up. They are supposed to a bit later on today. Okay, we've been talking an awful lot about the V-style. Now, I know when you skied, which was back in the early 1800s, One thing that you did was work with the Delta style, and that was sort of an inverted V. This goes the other way. Maybe you can explain it.
Well, yeah, the V style now has come around for a number of years. What's basically happening is that the skiers are getting onto their skis quicker. The front of their body is going through the skis more, so the skier is getting into an earlier flight position, which is creating more lift. And a lot of people were thinking that maybe because the skis were wider and the body was in between the skis, that was creating the lift because there was a larger air surface that the air was catching. But in effect, it's the body is going through the skis early in the takeoff and the chest is staying low, and that's helping create the lift and cutting which helps maintain the airspeed, and the guys are really picking up then the lift down in the lower part of the flight.
Now, I understand they started this somewhere around 1984, but it was approached with skepticism by the majority of the jumpers, and only recently has it caught on.
Well, yes, especially last year at the Albertville Games, 60% of the field changed to the V-style, and now with the World Cup season halfway through, all the jumpers are using the V-style. So right now, if you're not using the V-style, you're definitely behind times, and it's the only way to go.
All right, at the moment, everybody is behind John Lockyer as we approach the 120 jump.
Okay, 120 meters in increased snowfall. First down, Jonathan Sopinski, 16 years old from Oshawa. His first year on the national B team. He began jumping at the age of 8. There's a real good shot of the snow coming almost sideways at points through this 120-meter jump. Now, it's 120, which means, Orst, that it is 120 meters from there.
From the takeoff. Right down to 120 meters where the red line begins and the radius of the landing hill changes. And we can see Jonathan here. He's leaning quite well over his skis. It's pretty windy out there, and you have to remember one thing. These young guys have not had too many jumps on this 120-meter hill.
First of 2 for Sopinski, 94 meters even. Next up, Daniel Cardis of Thunder Bay. Traditionally, the 17-year-old is not one of the stronger on the 120 meters. He's one of the taller jumpers physically, one of the bigger men. Does that help or hurt or make a difference at all?
Well, actually, a tall man can create a nice airfoil there, but as we can see, Danny's just holding back a little bit. There's a lot of wind out there for these young fellows, and they haven't had too many jumps on this big hill, and he's definitely a little bit nervous and tentative. And he'll just need to get a little more experience and get more jumps in on the big one.
75.5 for round 1 of 2 for Daniel Cardis of Ontario.
25, yield 9, division de rotation.
Linsing, a 17-year-old from Banff, next in the gate. He got interested in this by watching Colin Capel and Kirk Allen do their stuff.
Well, Gregor's coming down here. I know he's quite nervous because he hasn't had too many jumps on this big hill either, but he made a pretty good jump out of it. He showed some aggression on the end of that takeoff, and that's nice to see.
Nice first jump. Unofficially, we've got him over 86.
Yes, he is trying to push himself over those skis. You could see he got a little gust from the wind, and the skis hit him almost in the chest. He's got to do some work on that landing there. It wasn't very nice.
Well, he should be pleased with that. 86.5 meters, the first jump for Gregor Linsing of Banff. Out of Winnipeg and now training in Thunder Bay, living here as well. This is the face of Neil Mines, behind the gate in the 120.
Neil is definitely inexperienced on this big hill here. I saw him earlier in the week make one of his first jumps actually on this 120-meter hill, but this wasn't a bad jump here at all for this fella. Oh, he hit the takeoff right on the end, and he's showing some aggressiveness, pushing himself over those skis, getting the nice V-style going. However, he's got to work on that telemark landing.
But a terrific performance for a first jump for Neil Mines. 98.0, and for the moment, that puts him in 4th place. Future goals include
we had to make some improvements on our 90-meter hill, which we have well progressed in completing the in-run of the 90-meter, which gives it the status of second to none in the world.
Jill, honey, I've got a
strength of some of the others here recently who seem to be improving now with the wind swirling a little bit. If it comes back up the mountain, it seems to help in the lift of these jumpers. 75.5, 76.5, those are what we were looking at in first jumps. And here, after a 76.5 for Watt, this is going to be well over 80 meters.
Definitely a better jump for Rennie, but he did get pushed by the wind. He twisted a little bit there in the air, and unfortunately he got a gust from the side. I think if he would have had a little more wind coming up the hill, he may have got a few more meters out of that one.
Still 84 meters even, an improvement of almost 8 full meters, an aggregate of 69.1.
Division de l'Ontario.
And David Hiscox of Ontario in the gate. Orst, I've been aware that they moved the start times for this event up because the winds were going to be blowing stronger today. They wanted to get this thing in before they got so bad that they'd have to stop it. 3 competitors to go. Here's Hiscox's second attempt. His first 79.5, and this will be close to that. It may be a little bit further behind, but with only 2 competitors to go, they're praying that the wind conditions don't increase to the point where they really affect the jumpers.
Well, we can see here that the wind is affecting David, and he had a little bit of difficulty there in the second part of his flight. There are only 2 jumpers left, and I'm sure they're going to want to pull this meet off. They really like to see some long jumps coming up here from these final 2 jumpers.
At the moment, Grant Harder of Alberta is the leader, but 2 of the strongest competitors yet to come. Well, as officials remain concerned because of the degrees to which the wind has increased here at Big Thunder today, we note there are only 2 competitors remaining. Both are in position to win a Canadian championship. This is the younger of the 2, Jeremy Baig, off, nicely off the takeoff point, sailing down the hill, and he puts in an excellent second jump. Despite strong winds, his first jump 119 even. This was very close to that. We're waiting for the
118.5.
What it is, 118.5, or sensational second jump.
Jeremy just nails the takeoff here. He's stretching his upper body well over the skis. He's pushing the skis nice and wide here, forming that V style. What a great jump here from Jeremy Baig. It's unbelievable how consistent he's skied here today. He's put in a nice landing also. What a day for Jeremy Baig.
In order for John Lockyer to retain his Canadian championship, he must come through with an outstanding jump under certainly less than outstanding conditions. That wind that we've been speaking about all day has picked up again. Jeremy Baig stands in position to win this unless Lockyer can come through. Good start. And he's lost something there. He lost some altitude about 3/4 of the way down, and he just flat out dropped and landed at around the 115 mark, maybe not even 110.5. That will hand Jeremy Baig the championship, and Lockyer, with this, is in second place.
John definitely hit the takeoff right on the end, but the wind caused some big problems for John. It's really unfortunate that he has to lose those championships because of the wind.
What happened?
Well, it's like an airplane. He just hit an air pocket that there was no air there for him to continue riding on, and he just fell right out of the sky. Oh, you can see the disgust in his face, and he's really unhappy about that.
Well, Baig will win this with an aggregate of 221.5 as we have a look at that wind, which is howling a little bit at the top, and you can see the flags blowing in behind John Lockyer, who sees his Canadian championship taken away, perhaps in part by Jeremy Baig, but just as much, I would think, to be fair, also by a strong wind today.
Yeah, the wind, it really caused some problems for all the jumpers. I don't want to take anything away from Jeremy Begg, though. He held his own, had good confidence, and it was tough conditions, and he really had two great jumps.
The air just dropped away right in the middle.
There you go.
You see, Johnny just said the air dropped away there in the middle on him, and it's really too bad, and he's really disappointed. But I think on the other hand, he sees that Jeremy Begg is a good up-and-comer and created some great competition for him.
Well, it was a terrific finish. Not so much for this man, but certainly to watch it was very interesting as Begg, who had an outstanding 90-meter finish, also came through with a tremendous finish in the 120, and he becomes the new Canadian champion.
Welcome back to CTV Sports Control. As we told you at the top of the show, the two big stars on the Canadian ski jump scene, Jeremy Begg and John Lockyer, and they certainly proved that true this afternoon from Big Thunder. In a moment, we'll go back to Big Thunder to wrap up the day, and we'll wrap it up from CTV Sports Control in Toronto, too. Back in a moment.